Before we begin, grab a blanket, turn down the lights, and get comfortable because we're about to embark on a journey into the darkest corners of human experience. If you enjoy this content, please leave a like and let me know in the comments which story scared you the most. Back in 2012, a woman named Sarah lived alone in a small apartment in Portland, Oregon. She was 26 years old and had just moved into this new place about 3 months prior. The apartment was on the 3rd floor of an older building. Nothing fancy, but it was affordable and in a decent neighborhood. Sarah felt safe there, or at least she did until things started getting weird. It began with small things she could easily dismiss. She would come home from work and find cabinet doors open that she was certain she had closed that morning. Items in her bathroom would be rearranged slightly. Her toothbrush would be on the wrong side of the sink. At first, she thought maybe she was just being forgetful or stressed from work. We all have those moments where we question our own memory, right? But then things escalated. Sarah started noticing that food was disappearing from her refrigerator. Not entire meals, but small amounts. A few bites taken from a block of cheese. Some lunch meat missing. She lived alone and didn't have a pet, so this was disturbing. She even started marking the levels on her milk and juice containers with a pen, and sure enough, they would be lower when she got home from work. Sarah began to feel like she was losing her mind. She considered the possibility of sleepwalking, even though she had never done that before in her life. She set up her phone to record herself sleeping one night, but the footage showed nothing unusual. Then came the night that changed everything. Sarah woke up around 3 in the morning with that horrible feeling that someone was watching her. You know that primal instinct that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. She lay there in the darkness, too terrified to move, listening. And that's when she heard it. A faint creaking sound coming from somewhere in her apartment. This was the sound of weight on floorboards, slow and deliberate. Sarah grabbed her phone from the nightstand, turned on the flashlight, and slowly got out of bed. She crept toward her bedroom door, which she always kept closed at night. As she reached for the handle, she noticed something that made her blood run cold. The door was slightly ajar. She knew with absolute certainty that she had closed and locked it before going to bed. She pushed the door open slowly, shining her phone's light into the hallway. Nothing. The apartment was silent. She checked every room, every closet, behind every door. Nothing was out of place, and there was no one there. The next day, she called a locksmith and had all the locks changed. She also installed a chain lock on her front door and bought a baseball bat that she kept next to her bed. For a few days, everything seemed normal. Sarah started to relax a little, thinking maybe the new locks had given her peace of mind. But then, about a week later, she came home from work to find something that would haunt her forever. As she walked into her bedroom, she noticed her bed looked different. The pillows were messed up, and there was an indentation on the bed as if someone had been lying there. And on her nightstand, there was a note. Written in shaky handwriting, it simply said, "You have a comfortable bed." Sarah immediately called the police. When they arrived, they did a thorough search of the apartment. What they found was absolutely horrifying. In the small storage space above her bedroom closet, a space she had never even noticed because it blended so well with the ceiling, they found evidence that someone had been living there. There were empty food containers, water bottles, a pillow, and a blanket. The access panel had been modified to be open from the inside. The police determined that someone had been secretly living in her apartment coming out when she was at work or asleep, eating her food, and watching her. They found evidence that this person had been entering and exiting through a loose window in the building's common hallway. The most disturbing part? They never caught whoever it was. Sarah moved out that very day and stayed with her parents for weeks. She eventually moved to a different city altogether, unable to shake the feeling of violation and fear. Now, let's move on to story number 2. In 2018, a college student named Michael was living in a dormitory at a university in Michigan. He was a sophomore, majoring in computer science, and like most college students, he spent a lot of late nights studying. His roommate had transferred to another school, so he had the room to himself. About 2 months into the spring semester, Michael started noticing that things in his room would be slightly different when he returned from classes. His desk chair would be pulled out when he was sure he had pushed it in. His textbooks would be stacked differently. His laptop would be warm, as if someone had been using it, even though it was password protected. Michael mentioned it to his resident advisor, who checked the keycard access logs. According to the system, no one had entered his room except Michael himself. The advisor suggested that maybe Michael was just being forgetful, which seemed plausible given how little sleep he was getting during midterms. But then Michael started finding real evidence. He set up small tests, like placing a hair across his desk drawer in a way that it would fall if the drawer was opened. Sure enough, when he came back from class, the hair would be on the floor and items in his drawer had been moved. He found crumbs on his desk from food he didn't eat. Michael decided to set up his laptop's webcam to record while he was in class. He hid the laptop in his closet with just the camera peeking out, set it to record, and went to his afternoon classes. When he came back and reviewed the footage, what he saw made him feel sick to his stomach. About an hour after Michael had left, the door to his room opened and someone walked in. It was the night security guard for the building, a man in his 40s named David, who Michael had chatted with a few times in passing. David had seemed like a nice guy, always friendly and helpful. But the footage showed David entering the room, going through Michael's belongings, sitting at his desk, eating Michael's snacks, and even lying on his bed. The most disturbing part was what David did next. He went through Michael's closet, looking through his clothes. He opened drawers and looked through personal items. The whole time, David had this unsettling smile on his face, like he was getting pleasure from this invasion of privacy. The video also showed that David had a master key card that gave him access to any room in the building. He had been using his position to enter students' rooms whenever he wanted. Michael immediately took the video to campus security and filed a police report. The investigation revealed that David had been doing this to multiple students over the course of several months. He had particularly targeted students who lived alone. They found that he had hundreds of photos on his phone of students' rooms, their belongings, and in some cases, photos of students sleeping that he had taken while standing in their rooms at night. David was arrested and charged with multiple counts of burglary, stalking, and invasion of privacy. Several other students came forward after hearing about Michael's case, reporting similar experiences. Some students reported feeling like they were being watched, but had dismissed it as paranoia from stress. The most chilling testimony came from a female student who had installed a small camera in her room after noticing her underwear going missing. Her footage showed David entering her room multiple times, going through her personal items, and taking articles of clothing. David was eventually sentenced to several years in prison, and the university was sued for negligence. It came out during the trial that David had been fired from a previous security job for similar behavior, but the university had failed to conduct a thorough background check. Michael transferred to a different university the following year. He said he could never feel safe in that dorm again, knowing that someone had been violating his privacy for months. Now for our final story. In 2019, a family in suburban Texas experienced something that would change their lives forever. The Martinez family had lived in their home for about 5 years when strange things started happening. It began with their Ring doorbell camera, capturing footage of someone standing at their door at 3 in the morning, just staring directly into the camera without knocking or ringing the bell. At first, they thought it might be a drunk person who had the wrong house. But it happened again the next night, and the night after that. Always at exactly 3 in the morning. Always the same person, a man in a dark hoodie, just standing there, staring into the camera for several minutes before walking away. The family called the police, who increased patrols in the area, but they could never catch the man. He seemed to know exactly when to show up and when to leave. After about a week of this, the man stopped appearing at their front door. The family thought maybe the police presence had scared him off. But then things got worse. Their daughter, who was 15 years old, started receiving text messages from an unknown number. The messages contained detailed descriptions of what she was wearing, what room she was in, and what she was doing. Whoever was sending these messages was watching her in real time. The family immediately contacted the police again and their phone company. The messages were coming from a burner phone that couldn't be traced. They checked every room in the house for hidden cameras, but found nothing. They had their internet security checked. Everything seemed fine. Then one night, the father decided to check their attic, a space they rarely accessed. What he found up there made him call the police immediately. Someone had been living in their attic. There was a sleeping bag, food wrappers, several burner phones, and most disturbing of all, a small hole drilled in the floor that gave a direct view into the daughter's bedroom. The police determined that someone had been accessing the attic through an exterior vent that had been modified. They found DNA evidence and were eventually able to identify the intruder as a man who had done repair work on the house 2 years earlier. He had apparently created this access point during his work and had been using it ever since. The man was arrested and charged with stalking, burglary, and invasion of privacy. The family immediately moved out of the house and sold it as quickly as possible. The daughter required therapy for years to deal with the trauma of knowing someone had been watching her for so long. So there you have it, 3 absolutely terrifying true horror stories that prove sometimes reality is scarier than any fiction. These stories remind us that monsters aren't always supernatural beings. Sometimes they're real people, hiding in plain sight, living in our walls, or abusing positions of trust. The common thread in all these stories is that the victims initially dismissed their instincts. They rationalized the strange occurrences, told themselves they were being paranoid. But our instincts exist for a reason. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Trust your gut, secure your space, and never be afraid to ask for help or call the authorities if you feel unsafe. I hope these stories gave you the chills you were looking for. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe for more true horror content. Let me know in the comments which story scared you the most.